All right, well, why don't we just go ahead and get started here. It's at the top of the hour. We'll just catch everybody up as they come along. But so thank you guys for and ladies and gentlemen for joining us, and we really appreciate your time coming to our open source character content creation session. It should be pretty fun and get things started off. So basically our agenda, first couple minutes, we're just going to go over introductions, and then main presentation will be about 15 minutes, and then we'll have some Q&A, and then we'll offer some resources that you might be interested in after, and then we'll have some closing remarks. So that's kind of how it's going to roll. Dave, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone. Thanks for joining in. I've been around the 3D industry for about 30 years now. And I've been kind of in a couple of places that were really great to work. I've spent some time with Autodesk, spent some time at some good studios, and also had a lot of fun along the way. But just recently, I've been noticing this trend. I'm getting older, obviously, and people who are younger are just much faster. So, trending towards trying to remain useful. I have checked out this AI thing, and it's pretty cool. It feels a little bit like how 3D did back in the day when I first got into 3D. So it's an exciting time, and I think that regardless of anything, I think that there's a lot to be learned by integrating it into our production workflow. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on at the moment. So welcome to the character creation workflow.
Nice. So I'm Eric Pinkel, and I am with CenterGrid. I'm specializing in virtual production machines. We're working with Dave on a regular basis to implement the new technologies that are coming out. And Dave's in Australia. I'm in Michigan, and the data center's in Detroit. So it allows us to kind of work together as we go along. So it's pretty awesome. You can check out our website at cgvirtualstudio.com. Basically tells you all about the kinds of system that we're going to be running on today, and Dave's going to be showing you the demo on. Just an overview of kind of what we do. Like, we're a data center in the center of the United States, and we essentially allow multiple groups from around the world to work together simultaneously on AI projects or 3D content creation projects. So just so you're aware, and essentially it's a pretty simple concept. So anywhere in the world, people will log in on a team. And then when you log into our cloud, you get workstations, shared storage, desktops for producers, file server. It's just like a studio in a box, 24/7 support, DevOps, all that stuff, which, they really help make sure that your system is running all the time. If that's important for your production capabilities. And that's it. So I'll let Dave get started, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and stop the slides. There we go. Dave, you can share anytime.
Screen with stuff on it. Go. Boom. Let me know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see it, Dave. Yep.
All right, great. Yeah, and I can feel you on there because...
sorry about that. I'll get out of there.
So actually, that's a really good point to start with, is that this machine is not my machine. Locally, it's a virtual machine, and I have that because it runs 48 gigs of awesome, as opposed to what I have, which is 24 gigs of mediocrity. So basically what I find is that as I'm working with AI, for example, we're training a character or something, each character holds about 8 gigs of memory. So you get 3 characters in the scene, and then, I've crashed. So this workstation enables me to do real work. I'm really thankful for it because it doesn't feel like it's on the cloud. It feels like it's local. It's great. All right. That being said, this is ComfyUI. It's a setup that is basically broken up into a couple of different stages that I'll walk you through. The idea is to be generating enough character references that you could potentially train a model with or give to a character artist to say, look, this is a really good representation of what we want, so that you can get the 3D done. So right now, if I just hit go, what it's basically doing is it's randomizing the seed of the image. But the basic idea is I'm starting with a checkpoint, which is a trained model, if you will. I get my checkpoints from Civitai and also from Hugging Face. So these two resources are really good. I'm using the Wildcard X XL Turbo, which is the SDXL model, which is pretty good. A little bit Pixar-y, if you like the Pixar stuff. That's what it's a little bit about. And it's free. And one thing you should note is that when you do use anything from Civitai or Hugging Face, just be aware of the license that you're kind of agreeing to, so you don't get in trouble later on or find yourself owing money. Now we take the information from this loaded checkpoint, and you can see right here I'm running about, it's not too bad, I'm running 11 gigs at the moment. And we just take that into and go through a couple of prompts. So you have a conversation about what you want it to be, what you don't want it to be. I'm also using a LoRa, which is kind of like a pre-trained data set on something that you want, right? And you'll find yourself making your own LoRas very likely in production. So this LoRa is trained on fantasy monsters. So if I say a wraith, it'll do a wraith. If I say a wizard, it knows what a wizard is. So I take that kind of edited data and I put it into this kind of just basically like a data pipe that I use periodically to extract information from and combine it with whatever it is that I'm working on. So bringing that across, I make a space in memory for it, and it thinks about it. And it thinks about it based on the seed, which is the noise pattern that it makes, and then it effectively just thinks back in a number of steps as to getting back to the image that it makes. There are configuration options that you need to be aware of. So when you download something from Civitai or something, you got to find this CFG and steps numbers and have them plugged into your K-sampler. That then goes into a beta coder, which basically just takes what's in the K-sampler and makes it palatable for the screen. And then it does it. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but that's what that is. It's a something with a whatever happening. That's what we made. As far as the system is concerned, it doesn't really matter to the system. There we go. So there's a wizard, and this is the kind of the rawest form of it. So, so there's a couple of ways we can go. I think what I'll do is I'll just turn on the character sheet side of things, and we can start looking at what that means. So one of the nodes that I had turned off here, this is the control net. So Comfy, if you haven't noticed, is a little bit like Max or Maya or Digital Fusion or Nuke or any other number of things with node-based connections inside of them. And that means that you've got people developing kind of custom operators all over the place. So one of the ones that you will want is this control net one. And control net does kind of what it says. You give it some inputs, and then it influences the way that the thing thinks based on the inputs that you've given it. Now, we've just given it, well, we haven't yet, but we're about to give it. Here we go. So now we're giving it instruction via this open pose model on, to do kind of like a character sheet, like a pose generator. So I can show you how that was made later on. But it takes all that information and then it tries to do that, right? Now, generally with this stuff, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you really want it to be proper, you're going to have to get your prompting down right. So, I mean, that's not really what I was thinking. But anyway, give it another go. And while that's happening, I'm going to go over here and just have pre-baked prompts, so I'm not trying to invent stuff off the cuff. This looks like it's going to be, here we go. Yeah, this guy's fine. I should move that up closer to what I'm doing. That'd make life easier. All right, so the difference between that prompt and this one is that I'm doing more than just saying what the character needs to be and where. It's also, look, this is what we're making. So it's a character sheet. There will be multiple views of a single character, which is the thing, and some details. And we say, go, or go. we'll see what happens. All right. Well, that's definitely a step in the right direction. I would take this off random and put it to increment at this point, and then just do it again. And we'll see what happens. Yeah. All right. I mean, I'm sold-ish. That's pretty good. Let's take it a few more steps.
Can I see a little bit closer up on that, Dave? Just to
Sure.
see what that gave us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Yeah.
So it pulled out. It still needs a bit of convincing over here. So
it's getting a start, though.
Yeah. It'll come around. So there we go. It's taking some liberties based on the prompts, the information that we gave it. There we go. So now what I'm doing here is just up-resing this. So I'm using an upscale model. There are different ones to pick. The one I actually like is this one here, the ESR GAN. It does it, and then it kind of just adds more detail across the board as to whatever you've just done. So give it a minute, and it will. Yeah, it's interesting. It's incrementing anyway, so it'll change a little bit each time I do it, which is fine.
So it's getting better in the second image. It's like enhancing or upscaling it. Yeah, it's
quality is improving, but it's also seems to be that highlighting an issue here. So that's because it's not following the prompt exactly. So I'll just continue. I'll just ignore that while it iterates itself, and it'll come to something that it likes. I don't get stuck on that. There we go. See, that's already better. Again, I want it to be better, so I'll let it continue to iterate. What it's doing now is I've added like a bounding box detector. So here's the cool thing about AI, right? Is that you say to it, find the faces. That's it. And it goes off and it finds all the faces. And then you can say, well, here's a bounding box around that. And then within the bounding box, I want you to do these operations. Just a bunch of stuff, right? And so now what it's currently doing is it's making a bunch of images based on one for each of these. One here. Probably we'll do the back of his head, one here, and then one for each of the 9. So you'll get 13 images out of this part of it. And the point of that is to create a starting point for your training of your model. I mean, even if you're training on anything, it's still good to get some variation, right? So just having the face look slightly different or look in slightly different directions, that can be enough to start giving your trained model something to work with. While this is busy, how are we doing? Okay, so, I mean, we're at the point here where I probably would have crashed on my device because I'm running more things than just this. Whereas here we've got it pretty much optimized. So I would have already had to reboot or downsize something. And there are ways that you can do that. You can downsize the latent space that you're working in. But I don't want to do that. I want to work in like a decent sized area. All right, that's better, right? I think that's actually pretty good. I might cruise back over here and tell it now to fix that. And if it goes, I'll put it back to 23 because 23 looked pretty good. All right, so there you go. So now it's made some exports, and you can see those in the directory within the ComfyUI structure. And then this is also saved out as an image. So then we will continue on with some more tricky things. All right, so this is kind of like the poor man's version of what I just did. Right? I'm not going to use bounding boxes. I'm just going to go and define a region and then make that into a thing. Make that into a render that I can use somehow. So that's what it's doing right now. It's just going back and effectively just it knows where these things are. So I'll probably refine this a bit so that each of these areas is a square. Each of the blocks within the character sheet generator is a square, so that no matter what the pose is, I could use not a face detector, but a person detector. And then it can just go in there and find all the people and then make it that way. I think that'll be better. but it requires me to make this dynamic somehow or to change the size. All right, so it's doing its thing right now. It's probably rebaking these out because they would have changed a little bit. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, they're not what I want. They went to, I was doing 22. All right, I will let that try to find its way back. And while it's doing that, I will just reveal and talk about the rest of the workflow. So after it finds those areas, and what we'll do is we'll take one of them and we'll refine it a bit, and then we're going to use it to generate some poses, which you'll see in a couple of minutes. So you can see that each section of the workflow is kind of around a specific task, which makes it easy to troubleshoot. It also makes it easy to understand. So it's worth investing the time in these types of kind of routing tools where you can move data around and you can shift the way that data is handled and then pull off what you need when you need to. Makes a huge difference in keeping your sanity when trying to understand what's going on here. Yeah, sorry, this is going to take a little bit of time because I do 10 iterations per image. So that's okay.
Yeah, well, while you're showing that, just to let you guys know, if you click on your offers tab, we have a free test drive of this machine that, Dave's running on. So if you're interested to try it out, there's no risk or whatever, just, basically click on the offers tab and just take a test drive, and that'll take you to our page where you can basically just sign up for one. We'll give you one for a week or two, and you can just kick the tires on it and see what you think. And hopefully you can give us a thumbs up on that.
I was very skeptical at first when I was like, yeah, whatever, man. Yeah, okay, come on, rubbish, nonsense. Because it has been for 20 years, right? It's been rubbish. It's been nonsense for 20 years. And we had just gone through a fairly exhaustive trial with one of the major kind of providers, shall we say. It was a fail. But this worked out really well. Like, fantastic. Like no sweat at all. Great. Well done. All right, you can see now what it's doing. Like I said, it's just pulling out these kind of poses. In the same way that we, do the fixing of the portrait of the face, we can do with the hands with a hand detailer. That's something that I go over in the advanced masterclass for this workflow. But it's kind of just one of the operations that currently is available, and I imagine that that's just going to improve as people continue to make many things using this ComfyUI thing. I don't know if you've noticed, but on what's it called? On LinkedIn, there are quite a few people who are integrating ComfyUI with Nuke. There's also integration with 3ds Max and with Blender, and I'm sure there is with Maya, and if there's not, I'm sure there will be soon with Unreal Engine. And while this is processing, that raises kind of an interesting point, which is, being able to take what we do in this and having metadata that's associated with it that then is useful in some way in production. Yeah. So one of the things that we're looking at right now for a feature that we're doing some storyboarding on is how do we take what we get out of the storyboards and turn them into 3D scenes and then turn that into something useful. So Unreal's in the solution somewhere, but I think integration of 3D is inevitable. So Stability has a 3D workflow, and it's possible for you to effectively do a real-time nerf or splat, whatever you want to say, like model derivation from imagery. So a lot of interesting stuff happening. So I'm going to be having a kind of AI weekly catch-up, plug for me, every Monday. You can find that on the website and come and join in because I'll be reviewing all the tools each week and what happened in the week before. I'm going to make it a bit more of an interactive session, more like a seminar webinar than just like a YouTube channel or something. Anyway, so here we go. This has taken this base image which was derived from the beginning of this part of the workflow. And then it's effectively using this face detailer to apply some prompt information to the image. So I said, make it cry, so it's looking a bit sad. Make it angry, and it's looking like it didn't get the right type of breakfast this morning. Very angry. And in fact, why don't we do this? If I say, red face, and hit go, you'll notice that ComfyUI is processing from this point onwards. And there it is, red face. Okay, well, I would probably iterate that a few times to get exactly what I want, but I'm digging it. The fact that it's got prompt control for the emotion is the fun part. And there's this one, which looks a little bit both crazy and happy. So maybe we'll knock that back a bit. Just smiling would be nice, maybe. And I have a feeling with this one that it's the denoiser is probably giving us a bit of issue there. So why don't we just give that a go? Let's see what happens. And bam. Okay. I might have gone too far, but you get the idea. And actually, you can see a subtle difference in a bit of a smile, slight curling up of the lip there versus this one. So you've got a bit of control. What happens then is a couple of things. One, I upscale and then save out one of the images. And then I do the same for the kind of 4 emotional poses or the emotional kind of range. So, this can obviously... This elf is not very expressive unless they're angry. And then you really know about it. So, don't piss them off. All right, so what can we do from here? We could, take this in and start trying to make a 3D mesh out of this stuff and see what happens. Probably would fail at the moment. We need more data. But it's the type of thing, it could be a starting point for that, which is a little bit exciting. All right, so that is a very general overview of what this thing is doing. And I think if we try to maybe just put in something a little bit different, like here we go. Jodie Foster getting dressed up as a space marine. All right, now before everyone starts to go crazy and start to scream about copyright and blah, 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 this and that. So having produced a bunch of animation work, it's fairly common, I believe, to go to a character concept artist and say, hey, I want a character that looks a little bit like Jodie Foster to do this as a space marine character, and then even give some reference material. This particular version of Jodie Foster when she was XX years old. And then they will go off and do that. And Jodie will never see a dime of that. But it happens. And I think this is the same thing from my perspective. I mean, I'm not trying to copy Jodie Foster and make it into Jodie Foster. I'm just saying to the thing, hey, try to get the essence of that type of, that type of look female. And I think it does a pretty good job. Now, if it's too much like what I've asked for, I can change the denoiser down and it will apply more creative license. So this denoiser here, it's at 0.85. That's why it looks the way it looks instead of being at 1, which would look more like Jodie Foster. Anyway, but there you go. It takes it off and off we go. Now we have some images that we could then take and again, give to someone or try to create a 3D mesh out of. I prefer the give to someone approach at the moment. Let's see where we are with memory at the moment. Yeah, there we go. I mean, that's a killer for anyone who doesn't have a 24 gig card at least, right? And I'm very confident that this goes over 24 regularly enough. I have hit the 47 mark. So, as soon as we've got, 2 terabytes on the card, I'm looking forward to you guys upgrading that, Eric.
Yes, we will be. Because I will be using that as well, sir.
Mm-hmm. That seems to be where it's going. All right. Are there any questions of any note? I suppose right now is a good time to dive in to see if there's any questions.
Yeah, so there is next to the chat, there's a Q&A button. So if you guys, want to ask any questions,
feel free.
You can use that.
Yeah, it's interesting to know if people are using AI, how much they're using it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff happening right now. So, I didn't answer the poll, but me personally, I'm using it, well, just for a bunch of stuff. Anything I need automated that I can either start or I can edit. Because normally, it just gets stuff wrong, right? Like you really got to watch it. You can't just let it go off and do a thing. But it's very, very helpful. Yeah, I really like it across many, many, many facets of my life already.
I'm not seeing any questions come up, Dave. Dave, maybe you can show the pose generator and talk a little bit about how the poses work and how they get integrated. And
sure. Look, while I'm doing that, I'll also just talk a little bit about what. Just cancel this. Oh, I may have actually opened up over here. There we go.
Yeah, so Khan's saying we can access models in Unreal for filmmaking. We will still be able to achieve that kind of cinematic realism. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, it's on its way. There are a lot of people developing tools and stuff right now for Unreal to be able to take these workflows and flow right into those. Blender, Dave mentioned a bunch of them right now, so they're all on their way. So getting these tools under your belt now and understanding how these workflows work will just, put you in a better opportunity to, start integrating AI in your workflow. Yeah, there's a couple already out there. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
It's really important to be very clear that these are not 3D models.
Yep.
It says model. It says model, and that's a misnomer because people who come from 3D industry are going to think model, as in polygons, but not polygons. A model is just a trained data set that's been trained on kind of a specific, whatever it is, it's trained on something. So that's where using the moniker model. So right now, no, you're not going to take this stuff and access it in any 3D package and get good fidelity out of it because it's not a 3D thing. It's a 2D thing. However, there do exist a couple of paid-for services that will take your inputs, your character design inputs, and derive a 3D model, like Meshy 3D. Like, pretty good. And if you pay the whatever it is, $50 a month, if you're generating a lot of models, I think there's probably some really good savings to be found there. It doesn't mean you're not going to have character artists involved, and you still want the artistry to be a big part of it. But, it isn't long. Really, to answer your question, it isn't long, Khan, before this is the workflow where you're having a conversation with AI and you get a 3D model that's talking to you, in a browser. Probably that's coming. Now, MetaHumans in the midpoint, MetaHumans has a role to play, I think, because it's got a standardized framework for rigging that people are working on. So, and also for clothing. So I think MetaHumans, you just got to get to one of the 18 character types that they've got locked away in the Maya file. You just got to get to that. And if you get that and get that all set up properly and shrink wrap your stuff properly, then I think we're very close to having a tight pipeline between this AI and 3D. Yeah. What AI is going to be doing more of, I think, is automating the things that we don't want to do. So I don't know if you've ever done any character animation, but doing it by hand is just, I haven't done it for 20 years for a reason, because I'm just not built that way. However, with Animate Anything, I think it's called, in Unreal, you can bring in your model. You don't have to rig it. You just bring it in and you say, I want it to walk from here to here. And then it will pretty much do a character walk. It might pull something from Mixamo or something and integrate that. So it's getting there. It's getting there. All right, so this is the pose generator. And what I'm doing is I'm using a plugin. These are all free plugins, but I'm using one. It's called Cozy Pose. Now, when you first install ComfyUI, you need to install this thing called the ComfyUI Manager. And the reason is, and you get that from many places, including Civitai or directly from Git. They've got their own repository, 20 seconds in Google, in GPT, and you can get that all sorted, right? Give you the links, everything. Also, I've got a PDF that you can download after this meeting, and I lay out the steps there for getting Git and Python and ComfyUI Manager all installed, so that you can click this button and open this up. And when you drag a workflow in, workflow is the name of the sheet that we work in, you'll be able to go to install missing custom nodes, because there will be some, and they'll be listed here. And then you'll just install them one by one. And then you'll be done, close. And then you'll reboot the system or restart the ComfyUI, and then things will work. So that's really cool. So that's why you want the manager, because it saves you from hell. So the nodes that you get, we will provide you with the nodes as part of the download package. And I'll include this in there as well. Eric, I'll get that across to you.
Yeah, I've got it.
So you'll get this, and as well as the original one, which we'll jump back to in a minute. And again, when you first install them, they won't work because you won't have all the stuff. But all you have to do is go into the manager and run it and do exactly what I did. Go in there, missing custom nodes, and it'll work. And then what happens is, if you load this up and there's no red boxes and you hit Q prompt, it basically does two things. It loads the body reference, and then it rotates it a fixed amount, and then it makes an image and saves it. And then it does the same for the face. Yeah, just looking up, looking down, looking left, looking right, up, down, left, right, all the combinations. And then it puts those together and makes a couple of different pose sheets. So this is just an example of what can be done. And I made this workflow, and I just kind of thought about how I would do it if I was doing it in, say, Nuke or in 3D, and I did it that way, and it worked. So, there's no mystery if you've got a production mindset. If you're coming into it new, I think you definitely want to come and hang out at the advanced masterclass. I'll get you sorted. All right, so let me go back to loading up the.
So Con had another question, Dave.
Okay, hang on one sec. I've just got this.
Yeah, just let you know.
Great. I already answered that one, Eric. The second question, I already answered.
Okay, did you? Okay, got it.
So basically, that's why I said I'm going to give you this to download so that you can pass it on. And if you don't get it, just get in touch. There is a free section of my Patreon. I'll make sure it's available there. That'll be a good place for it.
But also, I went ahead and posted the PDF file, Con, so you can download it, which basically goes through the basic setups and stuff you need to get started, just like we were talking about.
That's right. We'll take you through it.
So definitely get that. It's definitely worth it.
All right. So right now it's just making another one. And now we're doing a tiefling. So, okay. So in order to do, there's a couple of things you probably want to know about. OpenPose. It's free to do educational stuff. It's free to show your students. It's free to make stuff for fun and for your mates and have a good time. And if you earn, any money, they will ask you for $25,000 per year, which is fine. If you're at a studio and using this thing every day and you've got a lot of costs, that's fine. That's not a bad cost. It's fine if you're making, $1 million a year. Cool. I have requested, and I reckon everyone should request, go to them and say, hey, make an indie version that's free for use until you earn $1 million, and then we'll pay you. Or has a sliding scale or something, a percentage, whatever, not $25,000. But anyway, we'll see how they respond to that. What they'll probably do is just ignore it, which is fine, because there are plenty of options. So there's any pose, which is no problem. You can download that. It'll do a similar thing. Something else you can do here is you can just put in a photo, and it would still extract that pose to apply to the characters. So you can have all kinds of fun while you are working with OpenPose. And again, if you go into, say, for example, the manager, and you go into Custom Nodes Manager, and you type in pose, you will see Interpose, OpenPose, something, something, ComfyUI 3D Pose Editor. Ooh, 3D Pose Editor. Et cetera, et cetera. Many things, right? So, yeah, the best thing to do is just download it and get started. Jump in, start failing, and then get it to work. It's so much fun.
I would say the best thing is to actually, go to Dave's Patreon and help you get through not having gray hair to start, right? Meaning that, Dave's masterclass is gonna, go through detail. It's like a long class as well with like kind of multiple sessions, so that he's got time to take a look at your workflow and help you, troubleshoot and show the new stuff he's been working on and how to integrate that. So anybody that's on, I really suggest, at least, checking it out, registering, it's really going to help you get started. Because Dave
worked go through the setup of the ComfyUI. Sorry, Eric.
Yeah, just as a constant resource of someone who can help you work out the details. Because if you go to, YouTube and watch this kind of stuff, and there's stuff out there in YouTube, to really have someone that can help you work out what's happening, who has experience with it, to get you started, is definitely the way to go, versus just trying to learn it on your own. Because Dave spent about 5 months trying to unravel the solution about how to get this open source content to work, right? So, I mean, and we had quite a few frustrating days as we were in the initial phases, which is why we decided to put this together, so that we could show people, and then also to express that, hey, this is really cool stuff, and it's going to be tomorrow, it's going to be happening. Like, these tools are going to be in production. Right. So it's great, $100 or whatever. And there you go. You can get in there and you can get, start working to work out the solutions that you want to see happen. Yeah, it's looking good, dude.
Does a pretty good job. And as you play with it and as you crank up the memory usage, and you see that we're getting close to halfway, which is, again, this has 48 gigs, so close to halfway is death for me on my home machine. As you play with it more and you start to play with some of these settings, you will be able to improve, or not necessarily quite improve, but hone in on the thing it is that you want.
Yeah, just so you know, underneath the offers section is, the ability to sign up for Dave's masterclass. Dave, you should put your email in there too, in case someone, maybe has something a little bit different than just straight up masterclass, want to talk to you more.
Yeah, sure.
Connect with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
And again, I'll follow up. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say I'll follow up after this call so that, get you the information out there as well.
I'm going to go to the default view, load the default. This is what you'll get when you first install ComfyUI. It'll look like this, and you'll hit go, and it might just crash. Now, I don't know about you, but when I started in 3D, it was 1994. But when I started to, like, properly hardcore in production, like getting my ass kicked every day, was when I was on the 3D Studio Max beta pre-launch in 1996, doing animation production. And if you want to talk about developing a thick skin because software crashes, try working on a brand new type of software, in the middle of trying to do things that people have timed expectations on and money and all this kind of crap. So anyway, this, to me, we're in the same world, right? Stuff is going to crash. Stuff is going to break. You're going to hit the update button and you're going to regret it immediately. That's going to happen at some point. It's happened to me like 20 times in the last 6 months. And that's fine. I've learned my lesson. 19 of those 20 times I've done something slightly different. And now I've got a really good workflow for getting around that. But anyway, stuff just happens sometimes. So you'll get quick at installing ComfyUI and you're quick at fixing things. So this really just needs to be whatever one I want it to be, which is at the moment is the wildcard one because it will work. And again, this is really the same as the workflow that that you'll be able to download, which is, loading the model, having a conversation with the AI, having the brain think about it all, and turning that into an image. That's pretty much all it is. All right, I'm going to go back to the other one. Character worksheet. Go. Why aren't you opening character worksheet? I think it's just, it was just broken, I think. There we go. Sometimes it breaks, just refresh, you'll be fine. All right. I'm pretty much done with the content that I meant to cover. Pretty much. One thing I was going to say is that this particular workflow is good for, bipedal characters. Bipedal, really. You can simplify the workflow. So, for example, if I just go and turn off all this bypassing, and then you want to bypass the control net, which you can do with just Control B, and I would just bypass everything else for the moment because iteration is the thing with AI, and so the more that you can iterate, I prefer to do less actions on something, but iterate at slightly higher quality, and then I've got a really good idea of what it is that I'm exporting. All right, so that's all done. Now, because I've turned that off, I can get rid of whatever it is. So I can make like Donald Trump as a unicorn. I have no idea what it's going to do. I have no idea at all. I have zero idea of what that's going to do to this thing because I put in the word unicorn. Okay. All right. Well, it definitely did a unicorn. I don't know about the missing leg. Maybe that's a Donald Trump euphemism. I'm not sure. Anyway, but I'll just put this over to randomize. Now, to be honest with you, it may change. It may take changing some of these things to make this do what I want it to do. It can be a bit of a crapshoot. That's cool.
That is a very nice unicorn, though.
Yeah, it's a good-looking unicorn.
Did you see Khan's question? What's the limitation of ComfyUI? Is what we can't do in this? Like, what can't we do in it? I don't know.
Donald Trump riding a unicorn. That is a very good question. So, at the moment, Khan, if we think about it as like if we think about it similar to Nuke. Like, the power of Nuke is in the operators that it has. And so at the moment, we can have a conversation with a large language model to then produce imagery that has a certain amount of metadata to it. And in some instances, I have seen people integrating 3D into that inside of Comfy and using that to drive production results. So, sometimes there's a unicorn riding a Donald Trump riding a unicorn.
I love it.
But what we can't do, Khan, for example, is I could run a segmenter on this and I could break out Donald Trump and I could do some in-painting and replace the character. Okay, I could do something like that. I could zoom into it infinitely and make a trippy party-style video that you'd send off to a rave from that. There's things I don't know I could do with it that I could do with it yet. Because I haven't found the node, but there probably is one for anything I can think of almost. But what we're not doing is walking over to the other side of the horse yet. But I think we're getting there. I think, I don't know if you've seen that, I think it was Doom, Someone made an AI generator that recreates Doom with there's no artwork, there's no model, there's no game, but you can move around using the keyboard and shoot and play the game, but there is no game. So yeah, it's nuts. It's really nuts. So from a practical point of view, the one of the limitations I think is the generative nature of the results. You really need to be able to have strong separation between the things that you need to lock and the things that you need to you're okay with a bit of randomness involved. But at the end of the day, reality locks the randomness of everything around us, right? It's all locked, right? The randomness is locked from the seed. So it's almost like we need a seed per element. And until that happens, getting really good, consistent rendered results out of this stuff, I mean, it's a bit of a crapshoot. I don't know if you've tried to use Runway ML or Kling or any of the other video makers, but man, they after 5 seconds, they're really dodgy because they start to lose the point. I liken it to dementia. They just can't remember. They just forget, what am I doing here? And at some point, you can tell the thing just descends into chaos at some point. So part of that's a memory issue. So I think the reason why they're looking for $6 trillion or something ridiculous to build the hardware infrastructure to make AI take the next step forward, I think that's around memory. So anyway, we'll see.
All right. Well, we're getting toward the end of the hour. So again, if you just click on offers, you can click right on in Dave's masterclass. Dave, can you put your Patreon in the chat? Do you have a link for that, or we can send that out later?
Yeah, I'll send that later, I think. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. We got that. And then, but yeah, you can sign up for Dave's masterclass. And
no, Carl. Sorry, Carl. We can't. No, at the moment, this is not 3D. There is no 3D in here. None. So now we could extract a depth map. That's really straightforward. And then you could make a kind of quasi 3D thing by using a splat, perhaps, and then you could turn that into a quote 3D model. But you'll need more detail to make it a full thing. Like there'll be nothing for his right arm, for example. Zero information. So it all depends on what you give it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you just do some searches, like ComfyUI, 2D image to 3D OBJ output, there's a couple, already existing types of systems out there that can take your model that you render and export it, right? It's going to have limitations or whatever, but you can actually get to it. And again, some of the things that we're going to be working on next are focused in that, because there was a lot of people that had questions about how you can get, 3D objects out of Comfy. So you can go and just type in the search for that, and 5 or 6 different things will come up with different tools and different workflows, different YouTube videos with it already in there showing how to get a dwarf out, so that you can have a printable character for your game session. It's already up there. So this is a stepping stone to get there, and we just want to move along that journey with people and help them out with the next set of technologies or updates that come in Comfy and just other tools as well in that space. Okay, let me just go to the slides. So I'm just going to end on the thank you slide.
Sure.
And then after this, there'll be a follow-up, and we'll go from there. So basically, thanks everybody for coming. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Dave, for taking the time to go over everything with us.
Yeah.
And then after this, you should get an email that's basically, giving you all the information that we talked about, except for some other things that I will reach out for as well. So my email too, just so everybody knows, put it in the chat. If I could spell it right, that would be great.
If you have any trouble with the files, just get in touch and we'll make sure you get make sure you get everything.
All right. Well, thanks for everybody. We're going to duck out. We appreciate you coming and appreciate your time, guys. And we'll be reaching out. Maybe we can get a quote from you